Hello again. I'm Adrian Madril with Channel 5. The show is called Peace of Mind for Health and Wellness. And my guest today may seem like a far stretch for health and wellness, but you'll see where it ties in here in a moment. This is Crystal Harding. She's one of the the district extension agents in our area. And welcome. Thank you for being on our show.
Thank you for asking me.
And you are located in Erie.
That's correct. We are part of the Southwind Extension District with offices in Fort Scott, Iola, and Erie. My office is in the basement of the courthouse.
Basement of the courthouse.
Yeah.
At least you might be left alone from some of the normal noise and hustle and bustle of the day, and so you can focus on work. That's good. Now, your office is in Erie, and you're saying that there's offices in different areas. Mm-hmm. What is the reason for having you in separate areas?
There is an extension office in all 105 counties in Kansas. So most of them are located in the county seats, which obviously Erie is, and that's the reason why they're there. We were once just a county office, and in 2010 we joined with Allen County to become the Southwind Extension District, and in 2011 Bourbon County joined in with us.
Okay. And I imagine probably those changes in consolidation probably helps out on state budgeting and things like that. It's more of a not having to repeat the same resources over and over and everywhere.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's the idea behind the district model is to be but more efficient.
More efficient.
More efficient. That's correct. And we are an extension of Kansas State University. We're part of K-State Research and Extension.
Oh, okay. Well then, we're going to have you on the show today to talk about a few things. You know, our lawns and our gardening and our plants and trees and things like that. And some people are probably asking themselves, how does this tie into health and wellness? And before the show, we were talking about, you were mentioning how good it feels just to be outside.
It does. Gardening is a great form of exercise. I told you right before we started that just this past weekend I was out in my flower bed my own self, and I could really feel up across my back that, I was getting a workout pulling those weeds. So it's a great exercise, great relaxation for people. A lot of people enjoy just getting out in nature and spending time in their lawns.
I know for some of my clients that the act of pulling weeds or the more, if you want to call it, tedious acts that you have to do, it gives them a chance to block out everything else around them, block out all the cares, concerns, worries of the day, and maybe just focus on one problem, or maybe just focus on no problems, so that they can have that peace of mind.
Yeah, and I think it's so gratifying when you take a tiny little seed and you plant it, and then it becomes something beautiful or something that you can actually consume and eat. So.
Well, and that's a very good question, or a very good point. My question would be, if somebody has no experience, would it be better for them, or as a parent, would it be great to start with our kids and maybe not go full-blown on a garden, but maybe just here's one seed of one plant, learn the life cycle of this plant, and that way you actually have a more of appreciation for that one.
Right, and I recommend to people all the time, if they're an inexperienced gardener, one of the best things that they could do would be to start a container garden. And a container garden can be any kind of container. It can be a large round pot, it could almost be a raised type of bed. But the idea behind that is you actually bring in soil or a soilless mix, and a container garden is mobile. You can move it if the plants don't like a certain location. You can move it around. For people with limited mobility, they work very well, and you can actually grow quite a bit of produce in a container. One of
my clients that I see for work-related stress. She is less mobile than she used to, and she said that that's what she does now is have things there closer to the home, so that she can tend to them easier, especially days that she doesn't feel as well.
You know, when a container is roughly 2 foot tall, you know, you don't have to bend down quite as far versus getting on your hands and knees in a garden and working a large area of soil. So I highly recommend containers.
Dragging one of those hoses around the yard and everything, it's all right there, and it still gives you that opportunity to, you know, have that peace of mind with, like you said, a little bit of exercise and a little bit of mindfulness focus and stuff. Wow, this is, you know, we're tying this in a lot better to peace of mind than what I was thinking originally. But so let's get down to some of the things that, well, like for myself, I don't have a green thumb. So we were talking earlier, some simple things like grass. Why does half my yard look dead and half my yard look like I need to mow it already?
Yes. That is a very good question, and we do get that this time of year. More than likely, you have 2 species of grass in your yard. I think you probably have fescue, which is a cool season grass that we're starting to see green up right now. You probably also have Bermuda grass, which is a warm season grass. So it's not started to grow yet. It'll be another month before it starts to green. So you have part of the little fescue peeking through, but yet the Bermuda that still looks dead because it's dormant. So should I be worried that I have 2 different types of grass growing in my yard, or is this just the way life is? It depends on how heavily maintained or how much maintenance you want to do with your lawn. If you want to completely get rid of the fescue, then you would have to do some work to basically kill it out at a certain time of year. Same true if you want basically the Bermuda, if you want the Bermuda, you need to kill the fescue out. If you want the fescue, then you would need to kill the Bermuda out at a certain time of year. So, but a lot of lawns are a combination.
Okay. I just want grass. I don't like dirt and mud. You know, when it rains, my pets go outside, then they come back in and their feet are muddy and stuff. So I just want grass. So it's okay. Not half my lawn is dead.
Yeah. Okay. That's right.
There are, when you drive around, you see these little purple flowers everywhere. Are those something that I need to worry about?
Some people are concerned about those. That is actually henbit. Henbit is a winter annual. It actually starts to grow in the fall, and it matures this time of year. So it matures in the spring, and that's when we really notice that it's out there. The good news is when we start to get a little warmer and actually hot towards summer, it dies. So if you do want to try to control it in your yard, you need to do that in the fall. Late October to the first part of November is the time to treat your lawn with a herbicide to control that.
Okay. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be around for very long, because it seems like we go from winter to a blazing hot summer. And
correct.
So just enjoy the pretty.
Yes, in a few weeks it will be gone.
Okay.
So, and you can hand pull it. When it's up in your flower beds and that type of thing, you can hand pull it. So
if you're trying to maintain a golf course like appearance, you'll probably be out there more than somebody who goes, oh, pretty flower.
Right.
Okay. You hear on TV and all the bags and chemicals and stuff at the store, crabgrass. And when is a good time to address that?
Yes, here in southeast Kansas, we're actually at the perfect time to control crabgrass. April 1 is really the time that we need to be treating the lawns, and it is a granular application. So you would have till about the 15th of April to get that on. And there are 2 products out there that offer season-long control. Their trade name is Dimension or Barricade. And Dimension is a product that you could use if you happen to have planted a new lawn last year. It will not hurt those new little grass seedlings.
Okay, so April 15th. So we have taxus and crabgrass.
Right.
That's probably in that joke somewhere about there are
Yeah.
certain things you can't control in life,
Right.
taxus and crabgrass.
Right.
You mentioned about dealing with certain things at certain times. When would I want to plant a new lawn, and what would be the reasons why some people would want to plant a new lawn?
Right. If you are looking for a new fescue lawn, which in our area most people go with fescue, it's one of our only shade-tolerant grasses that we have. So if you want a new fescue lawn, the ideal time to plant that is actually about September 1. Some people will try to plant it in the spring, but I do not recommend that. Fall planting allows time for those little grass seedlings to come up, put on some roots before we head into winter, and then this time of year they just take off and grow, and they put down even more roots as we head into the hot summertime. So a spring planted fescue lawn, it will come up and look pretty good until we get hot. And then without additional watering, most of those tillers will die out.
So work smart, not hard. Work with nature, not against
That's
it.
That's correct.
And I guess with the April showers, the more root structure that the lawn has when you're doing a new lawn, the more it has the ability to absorb this water and use it as it needs to.
Without roots, you have no plants.
Very good, very good. We talked a lot about some chemicals, and you named a couple. Do I need to be concerned with these things with, say, my pets or with children or things like this? I'm sure the appropriate answer would be, go and look at the information on the package, whatever you're using.
Yes.
But what are some general guidelines that we might want to consider?
That is correct. You do want to apply according to those label directions, not more, not less. And another good thing to keep in mind is to keep those products in their original containers and to also store them in a secure cabinet so children can't get into them. Some of our herbicides, one in particular that we use quite often that an ordinary homeowner can buy, when you dump it out, it looks like apple juice. So it would be very easy for a young child, if you store that in some other type of container, to get to it and accidentally ingest it. So keep it in its original container. Under lock and key is best. Now, as far as those that you apply and then maybe worry about your pets or your kids out in the lawn, read the label, but use some common sense. If it is a liquid form, obviously don't go out into the lawn until it dries. Granule, you're a little bit safer with those, but sometimes if fertilizer is clumped, a pet could want to eat that, or even a small child, so make sure that you don't leave clumps in the lawn.
Now, I just want to clarify one thing. You said that if we want to keep it in its original container, a lot of times these packagings are condensed form, and you have to add water to it, and people have these spray containers that they do this with. Excess. Since it's already diluted, we can't put it back in the original container.
Right.
We probably just don't want to dump it into the sewer system.
Right.
So we want to probably properly label the container that we're using so that we don't mistake it for something else.
That's exactly right. And if at all possible, just make up the amount that you're going to use, or visit with your neighbor and see if they're having some of the same issues and maybe share it with them.
Very good, very good. I had another question, but I think I'm going to save it for trees or maybe complicated things later, because I'm not sure what it actually is.
All right.
But you would probably have a better idea. Now, on the trees, some of the trees haven't looked so good. And I'm not talking about the sycamores who always look sick. Can you tell me about what kind of happened?
Sure. The last 2 summers, obviously, we've been extremely dry. So 2 summers of drought has put a lot of what we term accumulated stress onto our trees. And basically, they're suffering because of the lack of moisture. But what happens once a tree is under stress, Then we get some secondary issues such as tree borers. And just this spring, in the last few weeks, I've been out to look at a lot of trees that are suffering from borer damage, and it's very destructive.
And what exactly is borer damage?
Borers, just like the name implies, they are insects that bore into the tree and basically eat the tree from the inside.
Oh, wow.
And it disrupts the vascular tissue of the tree, and eventually it will kill them.
So those are the little holes that we
Yes.
find on the outside of the tree.
Yes, and usually they're in a randomized kind of pattern. On some of our softer wood trees, I get calls about holes in my tree that just go round and around, or they go up and down. And I ask people, is there a specific pattern to the holes? When they say yes, then I know that that is sapsucker damage, which is actually a type of bird.
Okay.
So not necessarily harmful to the trees, but there are two things that will make holes in our trees.
Now, sapsucker, is that different from than a woodpecker? I've seen a few woodpeckers around lately.
Right, they are in the woodpecker family.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. What type of trees are good in this area? I have a new family member of our house, and I found out that they like hibiscus plants, and so I bought a hibiscus plant, not thinking that hibiscus is not a good plant to have in Kansas unless you really can maintain an environment for them. So what kind of trees, if I was going to add a tree to my yard, would be something that would be good to plant here in southeast Kansas?
Sure. Well, you basically answered the question yourself. You need to consider your location and what is the intended purpose of planting the tree. And the problem is, most of our soils are well drained and almost rather dry. There are tree species out there that will not tolerate a wet soil, so you need to be aware of what your landscape is like and plant according to that. And in our office, we have lots of different publications and fact sheets that the homeowner can use, and one of those is a listing of recommended trees and shrubs for Kansas, in particular our area. So
that would probably help with the planting times as well as nutritional requirements for the tree and things like that.
We have all of that. If you are interested in planting a new tree, we have a publication that will give you step-by-step how to do that, and then how to maintain it, how to water. So
I know when we lived in Wichita before coming to Chanute, we had this beautiful, I was told it was a pear tree, had these beautiful white blossoms. You see them around town now.
A Bradford pear.
A Bradford pear. And I guess it's a very soft wood.
It is.
And so we had a storm, and it split down the middle. Correct. And actually it was 3 branches off the main trunk, and it split 3 ways. And neighbors came by to give their condolences because it was such a beautiful tree. So if you want beauty but you don't want the heartbreak of losing a beautiful tree, it's good to find out what are the weaknesses of certain species.
That's correct. And yes, the Bradford pears do have their weaknesses. You're right, they're beautiful. We do have alternatives to them. One of those is being the Chanticleer pear. It's an ornamental pear that has a little more upright growth about it, but still offers the pretty blooms in the spring, but they are more hardy.
Well, that's good to know. So if you're out looking for a pear tree and you want the nice, beautiful blooms, that is a wonderful one to check on. And if you don't remember it, you can always go and hit the website for your office, and Chris is going to help us get some of that information on the show. You'll probably have already seen it by the time that we're talking about this, because he's really good at putting the information on. Now, I had a couple of questions come in from one of our viewers, and they were wondering about tree roots. So, like, maybe part of it is how, when you're planting a tree, some people like to plant some of these trees and bushes close to the house, and then you have structural issues and plumbing issues and things like that. What are some ideas on how we should handle those sort of things?
Right. Well, here again, you kind of need to be aware of your property. And if you don't know where your sewer lines are or your water lines, but definitely before you dig and plant, you need to get those located. and it is a good idea to stay away from those. I go out to homes all the time, and trees have been damaged by lightning, or maybe they've just declined, and they're really close to the house, and that does become, you know, an issue as far as falling on the home. So you do need to be careful about that.
Good. Is not so much a tree, but into like woody brush and things like this. Certain vines, people will tend to plant these things thinking, oh, they look nice, these creeping ivies and things like that. But they can also be destructive too when
Very much so.
When they grow on the side of your house and things like that.
Yes.
Is there any way to contain those, or is it something where we need to, if we're going to plant something like that, we need to be on top of it and prune it, not just for our sake, but our neighbor's sake?
Yes, the best thing to do is initially not to plant them. Do your plant research and, you know, learn about what their growth habit is like. For example, I made the mistake my own self of planting some English ivy, and that's been several years ago, and I'm not sure what I was thinking when I planted it because it does want to grow up the siding. And as a matter of fact, it will even try to get up under the siding. And at this point now, I'm trying to control it. And there are some herbicides out there that the homeowner can use. Also, just your general hand picking at it or pulling it to try to get it under control. But your best bet is to not plant it to begin with. And do your research.
Find an alternative that is not going to take the rest of your free time in the future to keep it at bay.
That's correct.
Let's transition over to gardening.
Sure.
And I know tomato plants are very popular in this area. There's nothing like a tomato right off the vine. What are some of the things that we need to look for at our tomatoes as far as things that might need our attention?
Yes. The absolute most popular question I get in the summer is people call and want to know what's caused the black, sunken, leathery-like patches on the bottom of their tomatoes. And that is actually blossom end rot. And it's not really a disease, so to speak, of the tomato plant. It happens when the top of the tomato plant or the viney part of it has a vigorous growth period that it just grows and grows and grows, and the fruit itself or the plant actually has trouble utilizing the calcium out of the soil. And it's not necessarily a lack of calcium in the soil, the plant's just having a hard time getting it uptaked and into the fruit. So the best thing that the homeowner can do is to make sure that their tomato plants are mulched really well and that they maintain consistent moisture. Most times when people call and they have blossom end rot and I ask them if their tomatoes are mulched, the answer is no, and I say you need to get them mulched. So
mulching and moisture.
Yes, consistent moisture.
Consistent moisture. Okay.
And also another thing that we see is a physiological condition called leaf roll. And a lot of people worry that maybe their tomatoes have gotten a little bit of herbicide drift, which is a possibility. But basically the leaves roll in on themselves, and it's called leaf roll, leaf curl. And it's another condition where the tomato plant has had vigorous vine growth, but the roots have not been able to keep up with that vine growth. And so the tomato says, I'm going to make my leaf surface smaller in hopes of conserving water. And usually the plants will correct themselves and be just fine.
So it's a self-protective measure by the plant. It's kind of like our body. There's the idea behind in dieting, eating every 3 hours, whether you're hungry or not, which sounds counterproductive. Your body will take and try to protect itself by conserving energy. And so it doesn't burn all the calories that it can burn if you go longer than that between meals.
Right.
So the plant is doing the same thing.
Right.
It's just protecting itself.
And the same thing has went on the last couple of years with our trees. You know, we start to see them drop leaves maybe as early as the end of July or the first part of August. That's a self-preservation mechanism that those plants have. They're dropping leaves to try to conserve water.
So that's an indicator for us that if we're not under water restrictions, that we can go out and give them a little bit of water,
Right.
and
Right.
so they don't have to do that.
Right, and sometimes, you know, maybe they have been stressed long enough that even though you're watering them, they're still going to continue to drop some leaves.
Okay.
But on tomatoes, you know, leaf roll is not something that's going to kill the plant, and it should straighten up with proper watering.
With those people who want the perfect tomato, though, is that something where the tomato might not be as full if the plant is trying to conserve water? Does that make sense? I'm not a tomato grower, but it's just something in my
Yeah, anytime a plant is stressed, the fruit production or the vegetable production will not be as great, and the quality could also decline.
So don't stress your plants.
Right.
Stay
right.
on top of them like any other life. If you're going to bring life to the world, nurture it, nourish it, and provide for it so that it can take care of you later.
That's correct.
Okay, great. With gardening, most of us think, you know, huge gardens and, well, I don't have a tractor that can pull implements and things like this. But we can still have gardens even if we don't have either the space or the equipment for it. What are your ideas on that?
Yes, we talked a little bit about that earlier. That is the container gardens. And any type of container will work as long as it has drain holes in the bottom. So make sure that you put those in before you decide to put the soil in. And actually, I have been doing some container gardenings at the schools in Neosho County as well as our other counties in our district. And what I do is I take actually what's been an old what's called a lick tub. It's something that farmers will put out for their cattle. So they're pretty good size, and I fill them half full with mulch in the bottom just to take up volume. And then on top of that, I actually use a potting mix and a little bit of bottom topsoil and mix that around and grow lettuce and radishes. You can grow onions. A lot of people will do peppers, tomatoes, even cucumbers in a container. And actually you can do muskmelons and watermelons. So,
and probably with the container for your garden, you don't have to worry about those vines as much either.
Yeah, well, the good thing is in a container, depending on where you set those, you can actually trail those vines where you want them to go. You can trail them up, especially on cucumbers. The use of some type of apparatus to hold those vines up works really well.
I was thinking more the woody vines that are more of a invasive in nature coming in, and so you're having to rip these out of your garden so they don't compete for the nutrients and the water and stuff. So.
And that's the other thing with container gardening. You don't have to worry about the weeds. It is important though to buy a good either soilless mixture or potting media to go into these containers, and don't just take dirt or soil from your yard and put in there because that actual soil is pretty tight and it has lots of clay. It just doesn't work well in the container situation.
So you've mentioned a couple of times already a soilless mixture. I can't wrap my head around growing something not in dirt.
Right,
So
right. When you
is
say soilless, it's a heavy concentration of peat moss, maybe some perlite. Perlite is the little white pieces that you see in potting soil. It's a real fluffy type of mixture.
And that probably allows it to hold moisture better.
It's more consistent moisture.
More consistent moisture. Okay. Transitioning from gardens to flower, or before that, actually it will work over both areas. these pesky little bugs that are always in our garden. We don't want to share our food with bugs and stuff.
Right.
What can we do about some of these bugs, and what are the common bugs that we need to worry about?
In our garden, one of the most common bug that we try to fight is the squash bug. And the thing that's most frustrating about the squash bug is it's so hard to control. And a lot of times, by the time we notice it out there in the garden, it's already done some damage and it's already laid thousands of eggs. But the squash bug, the key to them is to actually detect them early, spray when they're small, or treat when they're small, because the squash bug itself has a hard shell. And so that's what makes it so difficult for the insecticides to actually kill it, is it cannot penetrate that shell. But it can penetrate the small, immature insects.
Well, real quick, what kind of flowers do you recommend for Southeast Kansas?
I recommend those that are listed on our Prairie Star flower listing.
Okay.
Those flowers are actually trialed for several years at the Olathe Research Center, also at the Hayesville Research Center. And in order to make that list, they have to flower extremely well and be able to be maintained under minimal conditions. So if you go to prairiestarflowers.com, you can see the listing, and there's also some really nice pictures out there of what the mature plants look like.
So we were talking earlier about doing your research with different things, and this is an easy way to do your research. Your research has already been done.
Right.
You just go and pick out which colors you like.
Right. And I like to tell people they're almost guaranteed to grow. I mean, they like our Kansas climate. And that's a big thing. You know, it's fun to look through seed catalogs and say, isn't that pretty? But it might not tolerate our Kansas climate. So.
And you were telling me something about witch's broom earlier.
Yes.
And go ahead and share that with us real quick.
Last year we saw an influx of what's called rosette disease, and it has started to affect our knockout roses. And typically, or historically, our knockout roses have been pretty pest-free. They've been a real gardener's friend, but rosette disease has attacked. And basically it causes the rose to put on an elongated shoot. It's excessive thorniness to the plant. It has a brilliant red burgundy stem about it. And sometimes on those elongated stems we have what's called a witch's broom. And it's where you have one cane that shoots up and then just all these little offshoots that are, they almost look like a broom. They're just kind of ratted together. And the bad thing is there is no cure for this. And to keep it from moving to other knockout roses, or any roses for that matter, you need to dig and destroy those that are affected. So
this is one of those opportunities that you just don't want to be try to be cheap and just trim a little bit here and there. You need to go ahead and get rid of the whole thing, because trying to be cheap in the short run is going to cost you more in the long run, losing all your rose bushes.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being on the show today. I'm sure there's lots of things that the Extension Office can do for us, like soil testing and plant identification, wonderful things like that I wish we had more time to talk about today. But you'll be able to find the information on this show that can lead you to the Extension agent's contact information, and be able to find that wonderful information, also the information that we talked about today. So thank you once again for joining us for Peace of Mind. Hopefully this show has brought those gardeners and those people who are excited about their lawns a little bit of peace of mind. And join us next time. This is Adrian for Channel 5.